Good vach, everybody, and welcome to the weekly Shir of Gul Moshiach, the largest Shir of Gul Moshiach, English speaking in the world. Thanks to you and your participation, the Shir has grown from week to week, and I would like to say I welcome any feedback that you may have. If anyone has any questions, comments, or would like to sponsor the Shir, which tonight's Shir is sponsored, Lili Nishmas, of Rabbi Gershon Avtzon and Rabbi Hirsch, and also in the schus of a younger man in Eretz Yisrael, a cousin of mine, Rabbi Yitzchak Shochat, who is being tested from above, and the Eibishter should give him koyach to withstand all the meniyas v'ikuvim. Welcome everybody. You can participate by emailing me at yeshivaslubavitch@gmail.com. Any comments, any thoughts, any questions, suggestions, or sponsorship can be emailed and it will be announced publicly by the Shir. Tonight is a very, very special night, a big Yom Tiv by Chassidim. Motzei Shabbos, Yudalet Kislev, 83 years of the anniversary of the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin. The day Yudalet Kislev Tovshin Yudalet, on the 25th anniversary, the Rebbe made the famous proclamation and statement, as der Tag, this day, hat verbunden mir mit eich und eich mit mir, connected me to you and you to me. So as Chassidim are standing tonight, Motzei Shabbos Yudalet Kislev, and thinking of ways which to express this deep connection that we've earned with the Rebbe, obviously the most appropriate thing to do is to be part of the Rebbe's revolution of Dir B'Tachtoinim, the Rebbe's revolution of bringing Moshiach. So again, welcome to the weekly journey to redemption, and with that introduction, we are ready to start the Shir. The Shir is connected with the concept of a wedding. The highlight of the wedding is the great wedding feast that all the guests, friends participate and are misameach chosen v'kala. When Mashiach comes, the era of Yemois HaMashiach is compared to a wedding. Chazal say that when the Eibishter gave the Yidden the Torah, he got engaged to Klal Yisrael. But when Mashiach comes, he's going to get married to Klal Yisrael. The union of the Eibishter and Yidden, the connection will be complete, eternal and real, and for that there's going to be a big feast, which is known by everybody as the Suda of Shor Habor Livyasan, the meal of the great ox, the Shor Habor, and the Livyasan, the great fish. So tonight's topic is the background and the menu and the Hasidic perspective on this great meal of the Shor Habor and the Livyasan. Before we get into the menu and the details, it's important first to clarify a very, very basic point. When we say that there's going to be a meal, is that a metaphor for a more spiritual experience? Or will there actually be actual eating in the times of Yemois HaMashiach? It would seem that eating does not fit for Yemois HaMashiach. Yemois HaMashiach we look at as a very spiritual era, a spiritual time, a spiritual renaissance that will take over the world. So if that's the case, there seems to be no room for eating, a very mundane thing like eating. And that's why Chazal say in Brachas Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph, Olam Haba Ein Bo Yachilo Shtia. In the Yemois HaMashiach and Olam Haba, there will be no eating and drinking, because eating and drinking has no room in this spiritual era of Yemois HaMashiach and Olam Haba. So from that Gemara, it would seem that when we speak about this great meal, it's a metaphor, an analogy for some spiritual revelation that's going to be taking place at that time. However, most of the Mefarshim, the Ravid, and many others, if you look in the Marsha and Baba Basra, tell us very clearly that when we speak about the meal of the Shor Habor and the Livyasan, we are actually speaking about a physical meal. There will be eating, there will be drinking in Yemois Moshiach. It's not an analogy and a spiritual parable for some experience that's going to be taking place. While each of the components of the meal do represent a spiritual aspect, like we will be explaining, there will actually be a physical meal. Now, how would that fit with this Gemara? If the Gemara says there will be no eating and drinking, how can we speak about a meal that will take place? Well, that the Rebbe gives a fascinating answer. If you open up the Igros Kodesh, Volume 2, Chelik Beis, page Samach Hey, 65, and the footnote 26, you're going to see a very fascinating answer given by the Rebbe. The Rebbe explains the following basic point. When Chazal say that when Moshiach comes there will be no eating and drinking, what they mean to say is that the reason why we eat and drink when Moshiach comes will be different than the eating and drinking that we do during the time of exile, the time of Golus. In the time of Golus, we eat to live. There's nothing spiritual about our eating. No one's thinking about any elevations that are taking place by our eating. We look at food like a car looks at gas. It's a tool to move on. It's a tool to drive. Without it, we would not exist. So the food is to keep the body going. It's a very physical thing. The body needs food, and we have to eat in order to live. When Mashiach comes, the body will be very self-sufficient. We will not be needing food in order to live. The body will be living on its own, because really inside the body is a tremendous koyach of Hashem. Chassidus tells us that the koyach ha'etzem is found in the guf gashmi, in the physical body of a Jew. That spiritual power will be revealed when Mashiach comes, and is going to give the body its own life source. To the extent that there are different Maimorah Chazal that say that the soul of a Jew, the neshama, will get its spiritual nourishment from where? From the body. Today the body gets its nourishment from the soul. But when Mashiach comes, the soul will be nourished from the body of the Jew. Therefore, we will not be needing the food in order to eat and drink in order to live. That's not the way it's going to be. So then why will we eat? Because even in eating, there's a spiritual component. One might ask himself, why today do we eat? Doesn't it make sense that we should not need food? Aren't we higher than food? The human kingdom is higher than the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom. Yet, in order for the humans to live, we need plants, we need food, we need animals. And the answer is, like Chazal say, Ki lo yel alechem levada yichye adam, ki al moitzi pi Hashem yichye adam. There are spiritual sparks in the physical food, which that is the real nourishment. But today we don't focus on spiritual sparks, we focus on living. When Mashiach comes, all the spiritual aspects of eating, that is going to be the only reason why we are going to eat. The Rabbeinu Bechaya adds a very interesting point. He says we find in today's world that when you want to expand your mind, you have to be relaxed, you have to be well fed. You're not going to be able to really understand deep things if on a hungry stomach. As they say, the way to a man's heart and mind is through his stomach. That is the way. When a person is well fed, healthy foods, he's able to think, eat, and expand his horizons. This is why we are going to be eating in Yemois Mashiach. We are going to be opening up our minds to a very deep spiritual revelation. We're going to have a deep spiritual understanding. For that understanding, there has to be a certain relaxation and expansion of ourselves. That will come by eating the spiritual foods that will be served by this great meal of the Livyasan and the Shor Habor. Now that we established that, it's very important now to speak about the menu that will be taking place. The main menu, like every Suda Shabbos, is wine, fish, and meat. And challah, of course. These are the four main components of a regular Shabbos meal. Wine for Kiddush, challah to wash, fish to eat the first course, and it's a special skula to eat fish on Shabbos, and meat. All these four things are going to be eaten in this great meal. But each of these four things are going to be different than what we have now. Let's start with the wine. The wine for Kiddush is going to be a very unique wine. Chazal tell us that there's a special wine that Hashem's been saving from Sheishish Mei Bereshis. Ayim Leirasa Likim Zulasecha. This wine has not been seen by anyone. It's called the Yayin HaMeshumar, the protected, guarded wine. This wine it's in the grapes of what Hashem created in the 6 days of creation. This special wine made from these very special grapes are going to be served for Kiddush and L'chaim, of course, in the Suda of the Shor Habor and the Livyasan. Challah, we're going to have a whole new type of challah. Chazal tell us, and this is brought down in the Sefer Asara Memoris from the great Mekubal, the Ramami Panu. He says that when Moshiach comes in this great meal, we are going to be eating not regular bread, but the man that the Eibishter served in the desert. That is going to be served to Klal Yisrael. And he says, instead of putting two challahs together and making a bracha moitzi lechem min haaretz, we're going to bring the man and we're going to make a bracha moitzi lechem min hashamayim, because this is heavenly bread. Now the main course, the fish and the meat, is going to be of a different quality that we've ever seen. Before we describe the delicious meal, let's describe a little bit the background to this meal. Chazal tell us like this, that many people, especially from people, they have a very difficult time. They see their neighbors watching shows, they see their neighbors eating all different types of foods, and they have a taiva to join. But of course, we stand strong and we break ourselves and we do not go to these shows and we not eat these foods. Hashem tells us those that held themselves back are going to see something amazing, a show that has never been shown before. And they're going to eat fish and meat that has never been served before. The Medrash Vayikro Rabbo, Perek Yud Gimel, describes to us the scene. It says that Hashem's going to have the court open. And on one side of the arena is going to be this great whale, the Livyasan. On the other side of the arena is going to be the wild ox, the Shor Habor. And what's going to happen is they're going to square off against each other. And the Shor Habor and the Livyasan are going to have this fight. There's going to be a huge showing of this fight. In the middle of this fight, the Shor Habor, the wild ox, is going to take its horns and gore the Livyasan. And the Livyasan is going to swing around its fins and tails, and it's going to slaughter, shecht, the Shor Habor. And from this fight is going to be served the delicacies. We're going to cook this special fish and the special meat. And it's brought down in Chazal that Moshe Rabbeinu is going to be preparing the great feast of the Shor Habor and the Livyasan, like he prepared a meal for his father-in-law Yisrael. And Malach Gavriel is going to be involved in this meal. And it's going to be served for all the tzaddikim. And the Rebbe tells us that Kol Yisrael yesh lam chelek leilam haba shemer va'amech kulam tzaddikim. That means all the Yidden are going to have a chelek, a part in this meal. This meal is going to be open to the public for all Jewish people from all the ages. We're going to be part of this great meal. Together with this meal is also going to be served a special delicacy. Chazal tell us that at the beginning of creation there were really two Livyasans, the male and female. But Hashem killed the female because he said if these male and female Livyasan are going to get together, they're going to have children and they're going to have so many Livyasans that the world's not going to be able to handle. So Hashem killed the female Livyasan and is going to serve that also by the great meal. So we have the male Livyasan being served, the female Livyasan being served, the great Shor Habor, this great meat that's going to be served for everybody. And Chazal tell us that it's going to come the time of benching. And they're going to bring out this huge, huge cup. It's going to hold 221 lug, which represent the level of erech hapayim. It's the same numerical value of the word erech. And everyone's going to wash their fingertips and their mouth for Mayim Achroinim. The Alter Rebbe writes that Mayim Achroinim will continue even in Yemois HaMoshiach. And then they're going to ask who's going to bench. They're going to offer Avraham to bench, and he's going to say no. The Gemara Pesachim says he's going to say, I had a son Yishmael. They're going to offer Yitzchak to bench. He says no, I have a son Esav. And they're going to go from person to person until it's going to come to David HaMelech, like the Rebbe says, David Malka Mashiach. And he's going to pick up the cup and he's going to say, I will bench. Li avarech v'li noel avarech. And he's going to lead the benching of the Suda, Shor Habor, and the Livyasan. This is a basic physical description of the Suda. But as mentioned earlier, there is obviously a spiritual component. That spiritual component we will be explaining in next week's shir. But again, for all those of you that enjoyed this and made it till the end, if you made it to this part, I'm sure you enjoyed it. Then I'm sure you would also enjoy watching the previous shiurim. You can watch them online. You can subscribe to it on YouTube. Type in Moshiach Weekly, one word, Moshiach Weekly, and subscribe to the weekly video. And you can also subscribe to a weekly email on Moshiach by emailing one word, MoshiachWeekly@gmail.com. Once again, a good vach and a good Yom Tov. Thank you for joining us. Looking forward to seeing you and your family. Beis Hamikdash Hashlishi, Yerushalayim Yer HaKodesh. Take it from Yad Mamish.